Right.
Back. Lamar Jackson. Look, y'all, like Martenzie was saying, it was a little tight in the first half, but then Lamar got in there and chewed some people out in halftime, and then we saw the MVP in the second half. Before we get to the Lamar part, this is on the Mahomes and Lamar front. These are probably the two most complete teams, and we talked about the receiver portion of the KC part, but I think these might be the two most complete teams that these guys have played with from the standpoint of, Houston was rolling coming into this game in terms of the offense, and then they came in and put up nothing against that Baltimore defense. But Lamar Jackson, man, this is the MVP, obviously. This is a guy who needed this game. Bill, Martenzie, y'all were there. What did y'all take from Lamar's performance against the Texans?
Yeah. Like, because we knew going in, Martenzie was probably going to write Houston and Stroud, and I was probably going to write Lamar. And you're right, in that first half, I'm like saying, Martenzie, I don't know, man. I think you may
need to swap.
you may have something there. Yeah, like you want to swap, But let me say one thing before Martenzie made a great point. I'm glad you brought up Cam Newton when he astutely pointed out there are game managers, which is okay. That's fine. I mean, you want that. But there are magicians. There are times in any sport, in anything where you thank God for having that magical person on your team, because there are times when that's the only thing that's going to get you over the hump. We saw it in Mahomes, but then we saw it with Lamar, and we've been seeing it with Lamar. We saw it point blank when he played San Francisco, and there were just times, man, when Purdy is outstanding. Not taking anything away. I mean, he's a good classic game manager but there are things that Lamar does, man, that it's just magical. You can't make it up, and he did it again Sunday. And we found out after the game that at halftime the score was 10-10, and Lamar basically, he was a man of faith and all that, but apparently he had a cursing tirade where he bluntly jumped in everybody's butt. And basically he was saying, we are not MFs going out like this. And what did he do, man? That first drive in the third quarter, man, he basically almost said, F it, I'm taking over this. And he scored. He ran 2 more touchdowns. He had that great rollout where he threw to Likely. So yeah, man, I just thought, and again, it's not over yet, but I just thought that, and every time I see a performance like this, I think exactly what Newton was saying. There are managers, which is a majority of players, but then there are magic people, and Lamar Jackson clearly is one of them. Clearly.
Yeah, I think you saw that on display in this game, and this isn't to knock C.J. Stroud. It's just circumstances that he was in. They both faced a lot of pressure on Houston's side. They had no running game. The offensive line was really struggling. And just overall, we just know the Baltimore defense is good. And on the flip side, Houston defense is good as well. So Stroud was just kind of contained throughout that entire game. He played well, about as well as you can against the Baltimore defense. But like he did but so much, like he couldn't do anything, right? On the flip side, Lamar facing the same sort of issues, he just decided at halftime, well, I guess I'm gonna just have to do this myself. And of course, he only had about 150 passing yards, but then he ran for another 100 yards and had 4 total touchdowns. And in that first half, getting sacked back to back, running into his linemen down the field, like everything was going poorly. But finally, he decided, nah, we're not losing this game. And he put the team on his back and he got them across the finish line. And like that's the difference between being able to just get your team to the playoffs and play well or whatever, it might lose in the division round, and winning the Super Bowl, which at this point, I was skeptical coming in because I had seen enough of Lamar this year to know that obviously he's dynamic and playing great, probably playing better than most of the quarterbacks this year. But he had times where you just like, why would you do that, Lamar? I don't have that issue anymore. I think it's pretty safe to say that the Ravens will make the Super Bowl and I believe win it as well, because again, you can't ignore the defense for one. And then two, now Lamar has reached that second gear where when things are going wrong, where in the past the team would lose and he would falter and make mistakes and throw interceptions. If he's consistent with what he did in the second half against the Texans, he don't got that problem no more. And I think the Ravens are pretty set to go.
Martenzie, you said it's pretty safe to say the Ravens can make the Super Bowl. We got Patrick Mahomes coming on the other side, man. Like we
And
just
Patrick Mahomes is throwing to the four of us, right? Like that's my hang up. Like they've gotten this
man.
far, and Patrick has willed them into it, but he ain't seen a defense like this year, and I don't think he can just overcome it like he usually does.
Jason, what do you think about that? You mentioned the contrast in styles. Before we got on the podcast, you were texting us about that. What do you think about the notion of Lamar and the Ravens being the favorite to make the Super Bowl over the dude we've seen do it time and time again?
Well, I mean, they'll be the favorites because they're the number one seeded team in the AFC and they're playing at home, so they'll definitely be the favorites. It does have a feeling like this is Lamar's year, that everything has come together for him to be the leader of the best team, the most complete team that he's played on. So, like, I won't be surprised at all if Baltimore wins. I mean, again, they're going to be on their home field. They are the number one seeded team, and he is going to be the MVP again. Now, having said that, the thing is, though, is that Patrick Mahomes has 2 Super Bowls, and he has 2 Super Bowl MVP awards, and he also has 2 league MVP awards. I did not think the Kansas City Chiefs were capable offensively of playing the way they played last night. I'll be very honest with you. Like, having seen them so many times this year in person, I was like, well, no, he just doesn't have the weapons. So while I won't be surprised if the Ravens win, I still think that, you got to go take it from Patrick Mahomes. And I don't necessarily think that's going to be easy.
Yeah. Yeah. Martenzie, I love you, brother. But when you facing the cat like Mahomes, man, again, we talk about 2 magical people playing. And we have one magical person has done magic tricks, Super Bowl magic tricks. He's done the stuff at the highest level. And the brother just plays with so much confidence, and I think Lamar, he's still never been to this point before, and there's added pressure, and thank God he is at home, but there's added pressure of knowing that there's still going to be critics and doubters until he's holding the Lombardi Trophy. If he would have lost Saturday, well, see, blah 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 blah, and same thing if he gets outdueled next Sunday, it's going to be the same thing. So I think there's this added pressure on him, particularly if he gets the MVP or when he gets the MVP. I think people are still waiting to see, and I am. Me and Jason have talked about this about Lamar for years, man. I think that we both respect the style he plays. Nobody who's played that style of football, a quarterback, has ever hoisted the Lombardi Trophy. There's been a couple black, Doug and Mahomes.
Russell.
Yeah, but and Russell, but none of those guys is like Lamar. In other words, I asked Mahomes that. Mahomes is a really good athlete, but he said he's not the type of athletic guy who they would have switched to defensive back and wide receiver. Russell's not the kind of athlete who they would have switched to defensive back or wide receiver. That's Lamar comes out of that particular category of black men over the years, who's the kind of guy who, remember, what was this 2 weeks ago? The woman was talking about he's not quarterbacky enough.
Yeah.
He's not quarterbacky enough. So he's all that kind of ridiculous stuff. So, man, I really, just because of the quote unquote narrative, I love to see Lamar in the Super Bowl. But man, like you said, he's got a hell of a mountain that he's got to climb against Mahomes. But it's great. I mean, it's great theater. But I don't know, man. I just wouldn't. It's clearly not a fait accompli.
And you know what would be also great about it, Bill, if Lamar does do this? Like, Mahomes isn't going to win the MVP this year. He doesn't have the numbers, doesn't have the victories. Lamar is going to win the MVP. But if Lamar can go through Mahomes and the Chiefs, the best team, the best organization in the NFL right now,
Right.
if he can go through Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs and then win the Super Bowl,
Right.
like that would complete it. Because it's like, don't get me wrong, Josh Allen and the Bills, if they had won last night, it would still been good. But to
Right.
beat Patrick Mahomes
Right.
and then to go on and beat whoever they would face in the Super Bowl, that would, I think, shut up a whole lot of people.
Yeah, that's the hope. But I think with him that you get to the point where you don't care what the noise is, but you got to do it. You have to do it. And I think the difference that we're talking about now is Mahomes has that kind of confidence. You can just tell it, man. You can just, there's and I felt it too, that, and remember, Josh Allen hadn't been there either. He hadn't been there. He hadn't been there either. And I'm like thinking, if Mahomes had that wide open throw, that Allen missed, Mahomes ain't missing it. You mentioned Valdez-Scantling. That catch he made, man, that was the pass was perfect. I mean, that was a perfect pass that he almost had to catch. He said, "Brother, you got to catch this because I'm putting glue in you. You got to catch this. You can't screw this up, right?" And remember when what my man fumbled? Who's the running back? Hardman fumbled. That was it. That was it, man. That would have put the game away. And I think a lot of teams would have just been crestfallen. You've seen it. We've all seen it. Some teams would have been crestfallen. In fact, in my mind, here we go. That you go from putting the nail in to now Buffalo goes down, scores, and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, man, I am looking so forward to for you guys who have pledged. I haven't. Him crossing Lamar crossing the burning sands. Yeah. I think this is pledge. Sunday would be pledge night. Is that what you call it, Jace? I don't know. Y'all, what do you call it?
That's such crossing the burning sands. That's such a great, Bill. That's why you are who you are. That's such a great way to put it, man. Like this is his moment to cross over.
Yeah.
Can he do it? That's the thing.
Yeah.
One more thing before we go, y'all. I want to touch really quickly on CJ Stroud and Jordan Love. These are two guys that I don't know so much about Stroud flying under the radar. I think that people were pretty aware that this guy was doing some things that rookies had never done at this level, particularly considering how little faith people had in the Texans going into this season, coming off of the past couple of seasons that they've had. But the Jordan Love thing kind of snuck up on me, and maybe it's because I hadn't watched the Packers as much as I usually had this year. But I couldn't be more impressed with what I saw from Jordan Love being able to go into San Francisco, play in the weather conditions that he did, and basically, aside from the bad throw at the end of the game, played about as well as you can expect any quarterback, let alone a rookie, with young receivers and the youngest team in the league. To go into those kind of conditions and go toe-to-toe with a team that has more talent than almost any team in the league. I think these two quarterbacks really did a great job showcasing for themselves this weekend, and I'm excited to see them play going forward.
Yeah. Go ahead, Martenzie.
No, I was going to say, I can touch on Stroud. And I put this in my story, and it's not hyperbole. Like, I think I've seen enough of Tom Brady to notice the similarities as far as being so young and not wilting under pressure. Granted, they lost and they didn't score offensive touchdown, but I didn't get any takeaway from that game that it was CJ's fault, right? It was his second playoff game, and he's going against the Ravens. Like, he wasn't winning that game regardless, but he throughout the season, just watching him, particularly like third down percentage, and I think they're about middle of the pack, but he never got scared. He never got jittery under those conditions, whether it's 3rd and 8, 3rd and 13, whatever it may be. And there were a lot of mistakes in that game, mind you, that he kind of overcame. But like, he has the poise and confidence, and as long as that's not rattled between now and next season, he is what you look for. He is what you see in Tom Brady. He is what you see in Patrick Mahomes. It's not playing styles per se, but it's like, if the game is on the line, or if you're down 7 and it's 4th and 12, you have a belief that this man can pull it off. And you can't say that about a lot of quarterbacks. And so CJ already has that, and he's 22. So he has a lot going for him. It's just obviously his surroundings need to, one, improve, and then also just kind of cater to him and make sure he stays on the right path. But I walked away from that game. Again, he completed less than 60% of his passes, no touchdowns, but also in a very testy game, no interceptions, no fumbles, no sacks, despite going up against that defense. He's going to be special, and he might not win 7 Super Bowls like Tom Brady, but I see every kind of characteristic that you see in Brady, and I see it in him.
Yeah, and as far as Jordan Love, from week 11 entering the championship game, he had 21 touchdown passes and 1 interception. With the Packers needing basically to go into playoff mode to get into the playoffs, this guy was phenomenal. And yeah, people want to talk about that throw at the end of the game. The reality of it is their field goal kicker missed 2 field goals.
Exactly. Yeah.
Makeable field goals that if you're playing the number 1 seeded team of the conference on the road in the divisional playoffs, no, you got to make those kicks. I mean, if you don't make those kicks, you're most likely not going to win. So yeah, he did have a bad throw at the end of the game. You can't, every quarterback is taught you can't throw against your body into the middle of the field. I mean, he knows that, but he played more than well enough to win that game. And the reality is, you look at the quarterback lineage in Greenberg, Brett Favre to Rodgers to this guy now, and you didn't want to say it in the beginning of the season because you don't want to put all that pressure, but he's shown now that he is, legitimately the guy to take this mantle for that organization.
Yeah. And I guess, what I come away, not only from this weekend, from this, Jason, wrote a great book, Rise of the Black Quarterback. Years before that, I wrote Third and the Mile. And I'm looking at this group, man, we have there's another whole other chapter now before our eyes. It's just unfolded, man. Jordan Love, obviously Mahomes, obviously Jackson, Stroud, and then you got these cats coming up, man. I mean, you got who's the brother in Carolina, who is probably going to be okay. Bryce Young is probably going to be okay. Jaden Daniels, you got, and it's funny, Martenzie sent me the clip from Stroud during his press conference. He talked about Lamar. Now, Lamar is 27 years old. This brother, I think, is 22. But even then, he was talking about Lamar as kind of being somebody who shaped the way he played. So we've got these micro generations. So man, I'm just so, and they're all different. When you say black quarterback and you think of some cats everywhere running and all this, you couldn't have, it's just like black people in general. You just have everybody coming at this differently, everybody playing that position differently. So I'm just so optimistic, and what's coming down the pike. And let me just say before we end, man, it's been so great having you guys as colleagues, man. Martenzie, has been so great working with you. I think Jason, man, you've just continued to do such a phenomenal job. And Erik, driving the ship, man. It's just been talk about a quarterback. It's just been such a great year and such a privilege working with you cats. So that's apropos of nothing, but I just figured I'd just say that before we leave.
Yeah. And Erik, if I could just add one thing, just to piggyback on what Bill was saying, Bill sat at the Super Bowl, the one that the Chiefs, the first one the Chiefs won, and we were talking about, Bill's book on black quarterbacks, and Bill was saying, that I should do one, and I remember that conversation, just thinking about all these guys that are coming. Jaden Daniels. I wasn't even thinking about him then, obviously, but Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
Justin Fields had a great year.
Yeah.
So it really is. In another 3 to 5 years, this league, when you talk about a 32-team league, you're going to have franchise level black quarterbacks probably on half the teams in this league, if not more.
Exactly.
The old Public Enemy album, Fear of a Black Planet, it's about to get real in the NFL because these teams are going to have black faces in the most important positions all over the place. And then the question becomes, okay, well, you can't not have black coaches, head coaches, when you have all these guys showing, hey, this is what the capabilities are. This is what the potential is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, Jason. Because we even forgot about that. You see Gerard Mayo getting the job in New England of all places. And I do believe that when you have, they keep saying the NFL is a copycat league, and we're waiting for that to move up to the front office. I guess that's the source of faith that I have. When you look at this stuff historically, you see where we were like 40 years ago, man. That cats, Jason, you've spoken to, Martenzie, that cats around like Shaq and all them. If you'd have asked those guys, did you ever think that there would be a point that half the quarterbacks in the NFL would be black? That'd be like asking my grandfather, man, do you believe there'd be the president of the United States would be black one day? And they'd be like, boy, get out the sun. You've been in the sun too long. But I think, to me, that's the faith I've got, just in terms of us as a people continuing to evolve, that it just is an existential errand. Anyway, that's another show, so I don't want to go off on that. But I'm encouraged today as we speak at all levels.
CJ Stroud, Jordan Love got us thinking on different levels today, man. I'm happy for this weekend. I thought this was a great weekend for representation. And look, let's be frank. For the guys we wanted to come through, for the best matchup to come through, we get Mahomes and Lamar Jackson in the AFC Championship. You can't ask for better than that, man. So,
can you believe, Eric? What about? I mean, could you believe this? Let's say a Super Bowl matchup with Baltimore again and San Francisco. Can you imagine what that's going to be like? I mean, with Purdy again, and the revenge, and the great white I mean, McCaffrey. I mean, it's going to be but man, and his conservative,
No, but once again, no Christian McCaffrey slander on the chat.
See, that's another show. That's another show, Eric. See, don't end like that, brother.
Cat can ball. Cat can ball.
Who said he can't? It's another show, but who said he can't? And y'all know that ain't the issue. But we'll take that up next week. That is not the issue.
All right, folks. We'll talk to y'all later. Check us on Andscape.com for all our writing going into the Super Bowl, into AFC Championship, AFC Championship weekend, and beyond. Thank y'all.
All right. See you.